Hello and welcome to Enchanted Botanicals and Botanical Living with Kim. I'm Kim and I'm excited to show you how I make sauerkraut. Sauerkraut is something that we go in spurts. I like to have sauerkraut on hand, and in fact I do a lot of fermented foods, and there will be more and more fermented food related posts coming here to YouTube, as well as directly on my blog, which you can find at www.enchantedbotanicalsaz.com. And also, I make little shortened versions of things on TikTok. So you can check me out on those other social media places as well. But right now, we're going to talk about how to make fresh sauerkraut at home. It is so easy to make, and if you grow your own vegetables and you have an abundance of cabbage in the winter or spring months, or I guess it could be any time of year depending on what region you're in, this is a great way to regularly use cabbage, and it is so healthy for you. Fermented foods are so beneficial to your gut microbiome, keeps all of the good bacteria happy and the bad bacteria away. So basically all I'm doing is I used 4 heads of cabbage. You can use as many or as few as you like. You could even do it with just 1 head of cabbage. It doesn't matter. But I'm cutting them in half. First I took out a few of the outer layers of leaves, and then I'm cutting the base off, then cutting them into quarters so I can get the core out of there, because that part's really difficult to chop through, and it never really softens even while it ferments. So after I get all of those quartered, I am then taking the time to chop them into very thinly sliced strands. Now, I absolutely love chopping, and I refer to that a lot in different videos where I'm cooking. But chopping is somehow therapeutic for me, and I have a pretty good method of keeping things julienned and sliced really, really thinly. Now, you don't have to chop by hand. You can totally use a Madeleine or a grater or a food processor with a setting to grate things up finely if you like to. I get a lot of satisfaction from hand chopping. So that is what I'm doing here. Now, there are really only 2 ingredients that go into sauerkraut. One is the cabbage itself, and the other is salt. And the most time-consuming parts are the chopping of the heads of cabbage and, of course, the mashing down, which I will show you in just a few minutes. But just cut them into whatever size strands work for you. That's the size we like. When I get a full bowl full, I'm just sort of separating them. And then I actually weighed this because my salt to cabbage ratio is about 3 tablespoons of salt for every 5 pounds of cabbage. So I went ahead and put it on my bread scale to get the exact grams, did the math, found out I had about 12 to 14 pounds of cabbage here. So I actually think I added too much salt, but it doesn't matter. It'll be fine. But so measure in the salt and then start flipping it over. I do this by hand, and you're just sort of gently massaging the salt into the strands of cabbage, and just turn it over a few times. Try to get that salt well incorporated, because as it sits, it's going to start pulling moisture out as the cabbage starts to sweat, and it will start reducing in size a little bit. So I use these glass fermentation jars. I got these from China, and I'll talk a little more about them later. But it took me about 10 minutes to this point to see that cabbage reduce about 1 inch down. So then I knew it was ready to start smashing. So you can use a mallet. They sell mashers on Amazon for this very purpose. This is an old antique one I've had for years. And so what you have to do is just start pounding that cabbage. This is another time-consuming step. It usually takes a good 10 minutes for this quantity of cabbage to really pound it down. And you're truly trying to reduce it by about half. And as you do this, you will notice that it is more and more brine is being formed. The water is being pulled from the cabbage because of the salt, and then as you're mashing it, you're softening that cabbage, getting it started to break down. And then every now and then I will stop and turn it over to make sure I'm not neglecting some of the cabbage. But it's kind of fun to do. Just gently turn it over and then continue the mashing. I've even seen people use just like a clean, brand new axe handle because it's a really sturdy wooden implement. So that's a simple option. I know my uncle uses that when he makes homemade sauerkraut. So you get those at a local hardware store. So after I mashed for about 5, 6 minutes, my husband came in and relieved me. So he started mashing too. And he's definitely stronger than me. So this is a forearm workout. It is a great workout. And it is nice to have somebody else in the house that is willing to share the burden of the arm exercise and mash the cabbage too. And like I said, it takes about 10 minutes until it gets to the right consistency. You want it to be reduced by at least half. So once it's low like that, and it kind of, the color almost changes too. It's a little greener even than it was to start with. And now it is ready to get in the jar. So into a clean fermentation vessel. I like these glass jars, like I said. These are from China. I really like the way the fermentation methods are done in the Asian countries. And so why not use the same kind of implements they have? But you could also use a crock. You can use mason jars. A lot of people do a bowl with a covering over it. You really just need to do what works for you. I just pack them in there, and we're saving that liquid. So you do not want to throw the liquid away. But after a little while, you just have to start smashing it down. You really want to eliminate the air gaps in your jar or whatever you're putting it into, and you want to push that cabbage down as tight as you can, because as it ferments, it's creating that lactobacillic acid, and the less air, the better. You really want it to stay submerged. When you pour the brine juice back into it, you want to be sure that all of those cabbage pieces are staying submerged. A lot of people have concern about fermented foods. They're like, well, isn't it going to mold? I don't understand. And fermentation is a really, really interesting process. I'm not going to go into great detail about that here. If you want to know more about fermentation, leave me a comment down below and let me know. But in a nutshell, you're not going to typically have mold growing in something you're fermenting as long as the vegetable or the item is staying under the fluid level. So that's really the key. You want to pour all that good juicy brine in there and make sure that it's staying under the fluid level. Now, I did save those great big leaves in case I needed to put pressure on it and push it down, but I didn't end up needing to use them like that this time around. But I'm just cleaning off my jar, cleaning out the rim, everything. We want to keep as clean of an environment as possible for this, so you're not introducing any additional bacteria, everything you can do to mitigate potential mold growth. And then I'm just taking a paper towel and I'm wiping around the rim of this, because that's the one thing about these types of fermentation jars. Things will collect in that rim and you don't want it in there. And then I'm just, with my clean hand, I am just going through and pushing down any cabbage that was stuck on the upper level of the glass jar. And I'm putting that back in, and this is the lid, and I'll show you how you take care of it. So I have a little fermentation station, that's almost a tongue twister, set up over here. I just put a towel down with like a Pyrex baking dish, and then I put my fermented food items on that. And into these glass jars, you pour water at the top, and it creates the seal. It's really a really cool thing. And after a couple of days, you'll hear it making little blurp, blurp noises, and it's kind of fun. So here's what it looks like as it's sitting here. This was on day 1, and sauerkraut can take several days to ferment. This is a large quantity. So on day 2, I decided to put a weight inside of a baggie and put a layer of saran wrap on there and really push it down more, because I felt like it wasn't staying submerged well enough. Today is day 5, and so I've decided to take it out, open it up, give it a smell. You can see that it's already, the color is changing. It's no longer bright green, but gave it a sniff. I gave it a little taste. It's not ready yet. It's not horrible. It doesn't smell like a can of farts like it did 2 days ago, but it's just not ready yet. So I'm putting it back down. I decided I wanted a little more liquid in here, so I didn't make more brine because it's already salty enough, but I did do a bowl of just filtered water, poured it in there, and then I'm going to set it back over to ferment a little bit longer, and put it back over here. And I'm thinking it'll probably take 1 or 2 more days It's about 78 degrees in my house. It's summer, it's warm now. I expected it to go faster, but I'm thinking because it was such a large volume of cabbage to start with, it's just taking a little longer. So I write on my jars with a dry erase marker the date I started, the day I checked it again, and look at that! Finished, delicious sauerkraut. So give it a try. Let me know if you do. And I thank you so much for watching. Check me out over on my website at enchantedbotanicalsaz.com. And I hope you have a wonderful day. Take care.